Awesome, guys. So now Q&A time for our students' questions. So we always saying like at least this last UFCs were almost 2 to 3 weeks apart. So we send those emails about, hey, send us your questions. If you're a paying student from our academy, they have the chance to be able to send it. And Peter and Dennis send 2 questions, and they're very interesting. So we're gonna focus on one that's a little bit more philosophical, and then the other one's gonna be a little bit more about jiu-jitsu. And Peter said that he really appreciates the program, the structure program, the curriculum that we have, and he wanted to know a little bit more about when we started. Was it with structure? Was it with a curriculum or no? And did it make it more difficult for us to learn without it? So you can share yours first, bro.
Yes, it's. I appreciate the question, Peter, asking about what's better, learn jiu-jitsu with structure or learn jiu-jitsu
What was
random.
your experience?
My experience was zero structure. I was with one of the most well-known jiu-jitsu practitioner in the world. That was my professor. I was in the right place with somebody very knowledgeable about jiu-jitsu, but zero structure. When I start jiu-jitsu, day one, lunchtime class, I arrive to the gym, say, hey, I want to try jiu-jitsu. They say, good. Grab that gi that's hanging there, put it on, and come to train. So I got this gi that was hanging there. It was just the top, no pants, just the top with a white belt tying up, and I tied the belt like the way that you tie up on the first day. And my friend that was there was my professor was not there that day. My friend was a purple belt, 4 stripes, and he said like, yeah, welcome to the gym. Let's go and train with that guy over there. And I said, sure, let's go.
Just training?
Yeah, train.
You go train?
Nothing. It was just like
Introduction, no.
was kind of an open mat kind of class because the professor was not there. So the guy who was running the class, he pretty much went to the gym to train that day and just run an open mat.
Just train.
And was everybody there, maybe like 15 guys. And I went with one of my friends that, of course, later on become a huge rival, you know, because he was like my level, my weight, 1 belt ahead of me. And he caught me in an armbar from the guard, and I didn't know how to tap. I tried to pull my arm out, and he hyperextended my arm and really hurt. And I kept going after that, you know. I tapped. I don't know. I asked to stop because I didn't know how to tap, and my arm was really, really tender. But I just kept going and doing whatever I could do to survive. And I remember arriving home that day, and I went to fill up a cup of water, but I couldn't pick up the cup of water from the counter. You know, I have to use my other arm because this arm here was not functioning because of the arm bar. And no need to say that there is no structure in my first experience in jiu-jitsu. And still, you know, like if you go back in Brazil, most of the gyms, they still doing that way. You know, you arrive to the gym, you get one of the gis they have there, and you go for training, you know, maybe practice the technique for a little bit, long warm-up, 20-30 minutes warm-up sometimes, like push-ups, jumping jacks, and jiu-jitsu solo drills, you know, shrimp escape and stuff like that, rolls. But
did it make it more difficult for you, like when now you see the structure here?
It's of course it was way more difficult for me to learn jiu-jitsu those days. I wish I had started with something more structured, like we have here now. I always being very determined with everything that I start. I really go head in, and I really wanna go. That armbar there just made me curious about jiu-jitsu, but I know that most people would not like it, would not get curious about it if you get your arm hyperextended in a way that you cannot even like hold a glass of water, you know. So I did jiu-jitsu that way for many years, no structure, randomly training, you know, like commonly the professor asks like, hey, what do you guys want to learn today? And somebody say like, I want to learn guard today, and then like everybody else, no, I don't want to learn the guard today. But then the professor just starts to teach guard, and they go through it, some submissions from the guard, and you're never gonna see that that technique again or that class set up again, never, because it's always going to be different, always going to be somebody different with a different body, different skills. So make jiu-jitsu like very lost, like very, for you to catch pieces and put them together is impossible, and that was definitely the reason I decided at one day. I say like I can't do jiu-jitsu this way anymore. When I moved to America and I start to see how things go here, that everybody follows a structure anywhere they go. My wife, she works in a big corporation, and I could see like the way that she do things at work, everything organized, and
there's a process there.
If you have a company and your company have no structure and you guys just do tasks randomly and hiring randomly, your company never gonna have a base, never gonna have a foundation. And jiu-jitsu is just exactly the same. So changing now and see my past with jiu-jitsu, teaching and learn jiu-jitsu without any structure, and the way that I see jiu-jitsu now, that you can go through the curriculum and have all these techniques, the calendar, that you see which day that every class is gonna be. You have the combatives card that you can track which technique that you do and how many times you do them. At one point, when I moved to the US, we tried to create a little bit of structure, having a card that track how many classes you come a year. So there is a card with 365 marks, January, February, 30 days on each one, and you mark which day the student comes to the class. So you could count like how many classes they came. Yeah, but still, like, how many times they come, but you didn't know what the student did. You don't know which technique he did. You don't know like nothing more detail apart from, this student here did 30 classes, maybe let's give him a stripe. What do you think? It was kind of this conversation between me and my professor, like, hey, what do you think about that guy? Do you think it's time for him to get his blue belt? You think it's time for her to go for the purple belt? But there's no structure. You don't know what that student did. You don't know nothing. So it's
a little bit
very lost. I was very lost for years. And when I started to study jiu-jitsu in a more linear, structured way, I felt also that my jiu-jitsu changed a lot. The way that I train, my performance in the mats, my injuries dropped down like crazy, like changed like completely. I was always injured, and now learning more structure, that I know what you're gonna learn this week. I know which class is gonna be taught on the Women in Power program, on the kids program, on the combatives program. It's made a huge difference. And I see people staying longer in the mats. The chances, because jiu-jitsu is not an easy art.
Yeah, it can be very
if
complex.
taught in the wrong way, it can be like very, very discouraging. And
it's a lot to take in, huh?
Yeah, I couldn't be happier to have this structure. And the Grace University have the best structure. It's not that we have something. We have the best structure out there offered in jiu-jitsu. I think Grace University, Valentes Brothers, and few others have this very, very well done structure that allow the students to linear learn in the program and go step by step. And
I share mine like super quick, because it was the moment that Jackson was figuring out.
You mean like when you start to training?
Yeah, because I didn't come here first. I went to another place before coming here, and it was about the timing that Jackson was exploring Grace University, right? And I went to the place, and they didn't give me 10-day free trials or anything like that. It was more of a private class, and because I said that I wanted to learn self-defense jiu-jitsu, the guy gave me some self-defense techniques. The interesting part that I figured out later on, because of feedback from another student of his experience in another academy, he was like, noticing now they focus so much on the submission, on finishing the fight, right?
Yeah.
And then me
it's
thinking,
fun, right? The submission is fun.
That's what we talked about in the UFC breakdown, the submission, all that stuff, because it's the flashy part of the fight, right? But then, like, thinking back, when you think about self-defense, specifically jiu-jitsu, I was in that place. They gave me the privates, and it was exactly that: take the person down, pass the legs. In that moment, I didn't know what passing the legs were, and then submission, get them mounted and submit. And then the student told me like, yeah, they focus only on that. They pass and then submit immediately. You just focus on getting to the submission. And when you think about self-defense, it's more about the control and the exhaustion, on the survive and the exhaustion that is part of our philosophy here. I was like, man, that's a lot of difference. So I did that private, met Jackson, but met Jackson and the whole interest of getting to jiu-jitsu was because I saw him in a entrepreneur jiu-jitsu seminar that he was teaching the principles of jiu-jitsu in a real life or business scenario, and how can that impact in everywhere that you are involved in. And that's the thing that changed my whole thing. I was like, I want to learn jiu-jitsu because I want to be able to have something that applies in the rest of my life. And when I started to get into different academies, then I met Jackson. He was like, bro, I'm doing exactly the same. I want to go through that structure.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, Jackson didn't have that structure, but he was already focusing a little bit on the
I already
self-defense.
knew the value of it. I already like identified that there is something wrong, because my gym never go over 100 students. You know, always 80, 120, 100, was never passing that mark there.
Not only that, but injuries and retention,
and it's
everything involved
was
with
keeping the strong in the mat and was filtering the people that really need jiu-jitsu. They would not stay because of the intensity and lack of structure. But yeah, Peter, you are in the right place. You are in the right place. You learn jiu-jitsu the right way. And I have been watching you training here, and I see the reflect, how the structure reflect on your performance here and how you're learning. And the chances of you staying the mats is greater than any other academy of jiu-jitsu you can find around Houston. Probably there is like hundreds of jiu-jitsu schools in Houston, but I know that our structure really gives the students way more chances to stay in the mats for a long time, because jiu-jitsu is fun, is beneficial, is give you an incredible sense of self-understanding, and you don't want to stay here for 2 years, 5 years. You want to do this forever. You want to do this until you get until you retire, you know. But if not taught in the right way, unfortunately, it is nearly impossible to stay in the mats more than.
And that's the beauty about this. Like the people that we serve here is the people that want to stay in the mats for long term. It's not competition or anything like that. So if you're looking for something that is long term and is self-defense oriented, like I said in the beginning, it should be safe, it should be fun, and it should be structured. That's something that you can look for. Now, for the second question that Dennis was asking,
Dennis Borinsky.
Yes, so he would appreciate any advice or pointers on how to best manage speed and intensity independent of the opponent's speed or intensity. So he was talking about if someone were, and you can confirm this, Dennis, if the other person goes a bit more intense and fast, how can you slow them down a little bit?
Yeah. Controlling the intensity during the training. Dennis is already attending master cycle classes. He passed combatives. He's already more on the sparring side of jiu-jitsu with more training, and he feels that a good advice would have helped him to understand that jiu-jitsu intensity, it's really hard to control. You are in a fight environment, your friend maybe push the pace a little bit too fast, and if you also push the pace with the same intensity there, it's going to really create a situation that's we don't want to create. So how do you, and sometimes it's just a grip, the way that your partner grips on you already tells that they want to go hard.
The difference,
you know,
where it's going to start.
How do you change that? How do you see like your partner, or maybe sometimes like you guys already like training for 5 minutes, and then your friend tap you out, and now you want to give it back. You want to go like, oh, now we're gonna go. You tap me out, now I want to tap you out too, and that can really turn the training in something like a little bit chaotic.
So you may say that there's a mindset behind. There's an intention and the goal of the sparring time. So you can change the intensity with, okay, I'm here to practice here a little bit.
Yeah.
And then
you should see jiu-jitsu as a win-win situation. Okay, if you train with your partner, and you feel that your partner have a high intensity on you, instead of you give that back, you should let your partner relax more by you relaxing too. But then, oh, if I relax, they're gonna pass my guard, they're gonna mount on me. What's the problem? What's the problem with your partner pass your guard and mount on you? That's a great opportunity for you to master those defensive positions where you can be like a little bit uncomfortable there. Okay, so if you let your partner gain a little bit of control on you, okay, instead of you battle the guard and you kicking, you moving, you splatting everywhere, and I can identify that in the training sometimes by the noise in the match, like, oh, you see like those like splashing of body everywhere, and yeah, I can hear it, and I look like, hey guys, hey, take a minute break and start again, and try to go a little slower now. It's really, really hard to control. It's really hard to control that. But if you understand that you're gonna be fine if your partner passes your guard and controlling the side mount, and you can be protected there and keep your arms in the right place and breathe and relax a little bit, your partner gonna feel like a victory. They're gonna feel like, oh yeah, I passed Jackson's guard, and I pass again, and maybe 2-3 times, and then your partner gonna get out of that anxiety of do something on you because you already let them get that situation controlled. Okay, so that's what I do when I train with somebody and I feel that intensity there. You know, I let them go. I want to see where they want to go, and I want to see what they want to do, and I have no problem to tap in order to learn. Okay, even with my students here, sometimes I let them go like to the limit, to the like in a place where I would not like to be, but I let that thing happen so I can use that opportunity to gain knowledge and see where my partner have, because everybody has something to offer in training. So, and sometimes you can do that different. You know, you go with a little bit more intensity with a partner that's you know that you can train it with a little bit more intensity, but mostly you don't wanna reflect that same intensity. You wanna absorb it, take advantage of the fact that your partner wanna go very hard and play more defensive. Let them win those positions they are battling for while you work your defense.
It's almost like trying to like listening and observing what they're doing, right? Like you're just flowing with whatever they give you.
Yeah, exactly. Especially here, you're in an academy with our jiu-jitsu family here, you know everybody. There is no better place for you to deal with that and let those things happen, because you don't have to prove anything to nobody. You know, so I really recommend, like, one of the things that if you feel you go too intense in training and is out of control, play more defensive. Let your partner control you a little bit more. And if they tap you out, restart and say, hey, good job, man. How did you do that? How did you get that Americana shoulder lock on me? You know, and your partner gonna show you what they did, and you giving them something else. Not just they got the submission on you, but also now you're curious to know how they do it. So they are not a training partner anymore. Now they are like your 1 minute instructor that's gonna give 1 minute of instructions for you. And how do you feel when somebody give you that, you know, that opportunity for you to teach something? You know, it feels good, and then the person gonna feel, oh, Rafael really wanna learn, and you know, the intensity gonna be under control for sure.
I was gonna say, can we share what we were working on Friday a little bit, right? Because you were advising me, we were training a little bit on Friday, and Jackson was advising me about some things about how to slow down a little bit the game. Can you give that example for me to see about not only the mindset, but how technically can you do that in the game sometimes to slow them down and take your time, but is it the defensive side mindset that gives you that strategy, right? Is it okay to show?
Yeah, of course. So what's happened is, sit down guard here. So what's happened is, here is one of the situations where things get intense a lot. Okay, I want to pass the guard, and Rafael want to defend the guard, and Rafael don't want me to pass and control him on the side. If this is the mindset, and you don't have the right techniques to use it here, so it's often I want to use the speed to pass the guard, and then let's go here, and I want to pass in here, and then go, and turns this is like, and both of us gonna get a lot of cardio out of this. Okay, so one thing that I recommend to avoid this kind of speed pass is never the best, because you can pass fast, but you have no control, and your partner gonna recover the guard. So one thing that I recommend is close your elbows, come close and connect. Okay, use the word connect to describe this situation here. Connect with your partner. There is no problem of coming here if you know where to put your elbows and your knees and everything. Try to attack me there a little bit. Here, you're not giving much. You're closing the distance here, but you're not giving much. And same thing for Rafael. If he let me loose here and I can move everywhere, I may create a little bit of intensity. But if he connects in a way that he's using the arm grip, the foot on the hip, to don't let me go in or out. Now I'm trapped in this zone here. Okay, so now I cannot like speed pass anywhere because he connected with the game, and now we're gonna have a more jiu-jitsu technical battle here. Then I speed, lucky the one that go fast gonna pass or control here. You know, I would like to take this foot out and I wanna remove that hook there, and then we are connected much more here using the weight, using the momentum, then using speed and luck to pass the guard and control or to attack from the bottom too. And when you don't have this kind of connection here, understanding, there where the problems come, like elbows hitting the lips here, the knee come hitting your mouth, and you know, accidents happen because it's like too much movement. Okay, and if you watch 2 black belts training and 2 blue belts training, you're gonna see the black belts, they train slower, less speed, and they can train like for hours, while 2 blue belts or white belts gonna train for 5 minutes and they're gonna be exhausted. You know, it's because of the connection, because of the understanding of using the weight, using the timing, using the momentum, using my partner move to create another move to go forward. Okay, so
there's just something here that I remember that as a little nugget, right? So Jackson was telling me, okay, if I control your feet on the ground, specifically if I put it on the ground, it nullifies them, right? That's what the person wants. The person here on top wants to pass the ankles, and then it's gonna be the knees, and then it's gonna be the hip, right? So Jackson was telling me like, hey, Rafa, if they control your ankles here, then you can move your hip back, so that way you can be able to disconnecting and I'll balance them a little bit.
Disconnecting,
then,
yes.
Right, and then after that he was okay, I have to go down. If they have the ankles here and then you get to disconnect, now you wanna hold them a little bit by pushing and pulling them. So if you get this grip, like do the grip that you will tell me, like foot in the hip and then control it here. When you start to have this tension, now if I try to move either forward or sideways, you're so connected that he goes with me all the time. So it's just like that. It's like, okay, the person went in and then control the ankles here, and now you're trying to connect with them again to create some tension on them. So like start to push and pull, start to make sure that you create the tension for them to be able to say, oh man, I want to step back, or now I want to disconnect because he's too connected.
Yeah.
So you see, like the person started connected, and then he's detaching to connect again, and then whoever has the most connection there to be able to annoy the other person, he slows them down a little bit.
Yeah, like, knowing when to connect and know when to disconnect.
It's pretty interesting, yeah.
It's probably make you know, a good control of the intensity of the training, and but the most important is to never be afraid of play defense.
Yeah.
Play defense. You know, if your partner go intense, give what they want and take advantage of working areas where you're not comfortable with. Okay, with somebody mounting you, somebody on your back. Let that happen. Give that victory for somebody that have a high intensity in training, you know, and talk about that with them. Like, hey, good control, you mount on me, let's go again. You know, but never go again with the intention of, I'm gonna give it back to you. You know, like you tried to submit me, nearly got me there, we disconnected, now I wanna go and get you there too. You know, it's
and notice the mindset of defense that you mentioned, Jackson, gives you the opportunity to say, how can I slow them down?
Yeah.
Like how can I play defense and they can pass the guard, but when he's on the side mount or she's on the side mount, how can I slow them down and prevent as much of their next movement? So that's like, that gives the answer of like, oh, the person in the bottom is very calm, and then that person that is on top trying to go, it's being blocked like a heavy blanket on top of them because that person is slowing them down a little bit because they're defensive mindset, right? So it's very interesting.
And the more time go, the more you're gonna understand, the more you're gonna learn.
It grows that skill,
you know, and the intensity gonna get always more under control, along the road. But of course, if you have somebody that can come and give you the golden nuggets, like, hey, this is what you do to have control of the intensity, you know, especially the combination of somebody physically strong with a high intensity in training, it's a recipe for an injury, for a disaster in training. So, and I always say, like, hey, you're so strong that if somebody control you anywhere, and you can like just bench press them and take them away. You know, you're so strong, you have so much strength, but you not even use that because you're scared of somebody controlling you. You know, and I think jiu-jitsu, one of the biggest lessons you learn in jiu-jitsu is to be comfortable in chaos. So make the chaos happen. Give that victory to your partner. When you feel the intensity, let them go around you, let them go over you and control you, and see what you can do to survive there. Take that as an opportunity to grow your defensive side of jiu-jitsu. What's more important than anything else is for you to survive and be calm under somebody intensity.
I was gonna say for the last point before we go is that when you said about the chaos, I was like, maybe the chaos against the chaos is what creates the injuries,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because both persons are not still so like understanding of jiu-jitsu enough to be able to understand the chaos, right? So
Yeah.
one person being a bit more chaotic in the sense of they just want to go in that sparring session, and you being the receiving end and seeing like, okay, let me learn from this chaos. It prevents that injury, right? So it's interesting how that works. Chaos to chaos is gonna create even more and more prone to injuries. When you see the chaos, you receive it and flow with it instead of fighting against it. That creates a lot of friction there.
Yeah.
Guys, as you remember, we're Greater Houston, West Houston. We're in the Houston area, specifically on the west side, close to the Energy Corridor. So if you ever are close to that area, if you live nearby, just come try it out. If you ever thought either UFC breakdowns that you watch at the beginning that you loved UFC so much, and you sit down and you're watching the fights, but you saw that armbar happening, you're like, oh, jiu-jitsu is supposed to be like that? It's not supposed to be like that. It can be nice and safe, it can be fun, and it can be very structured and very organized. So if you ever thought about doing jiu-jitsu for the long term, for the self-defense, for fitness, for mental health, for anything that is so you feel curious about it, but it's so beneficial to you that you think that it's dangerous, but it's actually not in the way that we do it, come in, 10-day free trials for you to try it out. Any of the programs, we have combatives that is co-ed, we got women empowered that is the beginner only ladies program, we got the bulletproof that is 5 to 7, 8 to 12, and then the master cycle after you pass that beginners program that is combatives and women empowered, then you can get to the next
And
program.
if you ever done jiu-jitsu before and you got discouraged because of the intensity or because of
all these stories that we
lack
talked
of
about.
structure, or you got injured, you know, and you are able to heal from that injury by you thinking like, oh, jiu-jitsu is not for me, it was too hard. I tell you guys, there is a way to train jiu-jitsu safe for a long time without discouragement, and that's what we offer here. And I can't say like I guarantee you're gonna like it, but
Try it out.
I put all my money on the program that we have here because I have not ever experienced such a friendly environment and such a safe environment as we have here at Grace Jiu-Jitsu Houston.
Yeah.
So if you wanna give one more try, we are here to help you.
Yeah, so you can check the link probably in the description. Should be a link there. If you're watching this on any social media, it should be a link like in the little description about the 10-day trial, so we can try it out, reserve a day, come to the class. We're gonna guide you anywhere, and after you come to the 10-day trial, you see how your schedule works. Then you can pick a membership to see which one benefits you the most. Worst case scenario, if you don't want to pick a membership, just return the uniform. No commitment, no charge.
Yeah.
See you in the mats.
See you later, guys.